Hello, hello, and welcome to my Lunch and Learn, where each and every week we explore topics to help you elevate your mindset, be at your best, and radically expand your life. And today we are talking about consistency. This is something a lot of people wrestle with. So if you've ever fallen off the wagon and maybe feel like a failure, or you've struggled to build momentum no matter how bad you want results, you know it in here, but it just doesn't happen. Today is for you because I'm going to explore why consistency matters, how to stop second guessing yourself, and what it really takes to follow through and build that lasting integrity with yourself. It is time for you to break the cycle and finally create momentum that sticks. But before we get into that, I want to know where you're coming in from. And if you're tuning in by replay, type in replay in the chat. So let me know where you're coming in from in the chat. If it's your first time, type in first time in the chat because I want to thank you for being here. I truly do appreciate your presence. Now, some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm Larissa McCook, Canada's leading abundance mentor, and we work with professional women that have absolutely beautiful lives, but they know they want more. They're interested in personal growth and development, and they want to make a difference in the world. So we help them bridge the gap between dreaming and doing so they can have a life and business they want and love. Now, why this topic? Well, a couple weeks ago, I was running one of my master classes that I've done many times before. It's called Rewire Your Morning, Reinvent Your Life. And it's talking all about morning routines and how using the first hours of your day, it can be such a powerful thing in your life, in your business, and in your results. So great masterclass. Clients got great tips. All of the attendees got so much out of it. However, there was one challenge a lot of participants mentioned this time more than ever before. And it was their struggle to be consistent. There were a lot of people that had tried routines or had tried things, but they couldn't stick to them. And it was pretty much straight across the board. And I think this idea of consistency is it's not always easy, but it is possible, especially when you really look at what it is, how to work with it instead of against it. So let's look at the definition. What is consistency? Well, consistency is conformity in the application of something. So doing something the same way. Typically where there you might need to have some sense of logic, accuracy, or fairness. So consistency is basically doing the same kind of thing in the same kind of way over and over and over and over and over again. Okay. And consistency is not just a behavioral choice, it's actually deeply rooted in neuroscience. And so research shows that the brain operates on a reward based system, which means that the more we repeat an action, the more neural pathways are actually going to be strengthened in the brain, making it so much easier to perform over time. So the more you do it, the easier it becomes to do it. The more you do it, the easier it becomes to do it. The more you do it, the easier it becomes to do it. And this process is linked to dopamine, the brain's feel-good neurotransmitter that is released when you make progress towards your goals. So when you make progress, you feel good. Make progress, you feel good. Make progress, you feel good. The more you make progress, the better you feel, and the better you get at these things. So over time, the repeated action, it leads to habit formation, making consistent behavior automatic. So let's take a look at the prefrontal cortex. Okay, this is a part of the brain that governs decision making and self control, and it plays a significant role in maintaining consistency. So, what happens is when you're committed to a goal, this area of your brain is activated to help you resist distractions and stay focused. And so, the more consistently you make decisions in alignment with your goals, okay, so let me repeat that. The more consistent you make decisions that are in alignment with your goals, the more of these synaptic connections, the more neurological connections are formed in the prefrontal cortex, making it easier to stay disciplined and follow through. So it's not just making any decisions, they've got to be decisions in alignment so that more of the reinforcement is happening with your brain and within yourself. Now, there's a book that is called The Power of Habit. And Charles Duhigg, he explains that habits are formed. He explains how habits are formed and how consistency creates these neurological pathways that make them automatic. So if you want to learn more about that and the details and science behind that, go check out that book. Another brilliant piece of work is James Clear's Atomic Habits, where he discusses how small, consistent actions compounded over time can create lasting change. And he talks about the science behind habit formation. And so there's many other sources of reference, but those are two really powerful books. However, main point is consistency is the result of repeated behaviors that align with your goals. And when the brain is wired to maintain these, your automatic behaviors are going to start providing the right reinforcement and environment. So I know that consistency is something a lot of people struggle with, and um, and we are going to find ourselves stuck in the start stop cycle. Okay, there's times where we're rolling, and we're moving. And then there's times where we just start, stop, and where you just try to keep going, but then before you know it, you're back at square one. You are not alone in this, and you are not broken if this is the case. So let's take a look at what you can actually do about it. Okay. You're probably not going to be consistent with absolutely everything in your life, but what's important is that you start recognizing where you are consistent and you become consistent in more of the important areas and arenas in your life. Oh, Megan, love that your level of consistency is tied to how aligned action is with your goal. If you can't stay consistent, it makes you wonder if the goal is really something you want. Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually point number one that I want to talk about. So first thing, if you want to be consistent, what you want to do is make sure you have a compelling enough reason. If your vision, your goals, your desires aren't compelling enough, why would you be consistent? You have no reason to care. It's just another thing on your to-do list. And so the very basis, the very first step to actually being consistent is having that compelling reason, something big enough to keep you going even when motivation dips. This is where your life starts to come together. So you need something that you're working towards that's absolutely meaningful, that lights you up like a Christmas tree, like a spark from the inside out. And without doing this, consistency is just going to become a chore. And when you have something, a compelling vision, compelling goals, a compelling future to work towards, and you take action towards it, of course, it's going to be stronger and easier to keep going. So one of the things that we do, and we talk about this all the time at the Abundance Academy, is the importance of having a vision of your life and business that lights you up like a Christmas tree. And so often we found people were trying to set goals and make commitments, but they were just these arbitrary things and they didn't fully align with their life's vision. And so what we did is we started training a vision casting process. And once clients started creating that vision of their rich and fulfilling life, they created more meaningful and purposeful goals, and they started truly building their life in a holistic way. And so we're going to be holding, we hold this vision expansion experience several times a year. We'll be holding one starting again May 26th. If you're interested in joining us, then type in vision in the chat. And if you end up missing it, then type in vision and my team will let you know how you can get access to the wait list so you can join us next time. But I'd love for you to join the experience. It's a free 5-day experience where you actually get to create or elevate your life's vision, because you may have had a vision, it may be out of date and no longer compelling. Maybe you've never actually taken the time to create one and you have no idea where to start. So join us for the vision expansion experience. All you got to do is type in vision in the chat. But this is the very first point, and we want to share this with our community because we know when you have a compelling vision, all of the other pieces can start to fall in place. The next thing is commitment. Okay. When you have this compelling vision, these compelling goals, this compelling thing you're working towards, you need commitment to go all in no matter what. When you have a reason, again, easy to make a full commitment because your brain is required to follow through when you're truly committed. And this requires more than just stating your intentions. It actually requires an internal decision to go all in no matter what. Kenneth Blanchard, he says the key to success is to commit yourself to the process, not just the outcome. And so often we might think we want the outcome. It's this desire, this thing that we're chasing. However, when you're actually committed, you're committed to doing the work, doing the things that get you to the process. And he also says that most people aren't committed because they do what's convenient. But real commitment, it's not about doing what's convenient. It's about doing what's required, doing the hard work, not accepting any excuses, only accepting results. And when you fully commit, your prefrontal cortex that governs decision making, it helps you start to override distractions. It just like tunes them out to help you stay focused on your goal. And when you follow through consistently, you strengthen these neurological connections that support your behavior, making it super duper easy to stick with it in the future. But you've really got to ask yourself, like, am I actually committed? You might have a desire, but it might not be a commitment. This is something we talk about. We've had many discussions with our clients about, especially on our morning calls. Okay, you're interested, but were you committed? Like, did you actually say, I'm going to do this no matter what? And some of them, they were like, you know what? I thought I was committed. I thought I wanted it, but I actually didn't commit to it. It's just this nice idea. And then instead of feeling bad, they had a choice. Am I going to commit or am I going to let it go or am I going to shift my approach? And so you really have to have that hard conversation with yourself because that's a moment of truth. Moment of truth, but are you really committed or are you pretending to be committed? Are you just going through the motions or are you playing full out? Third point is the environment. Okay, so your environment to support your system for change. And this is something else we've been talking a lot about in our client base as well the last couple of weeks because environment is huge. It's a huge influencer for consistency. This helps you go beyond willpower because environment plays a crucial role. Now, research shows that environmental cues, what you see, what you hear, what you physically interact with, can either help you or hinder your ability to stay consistent. Now, when you make your environment supportive of your goals, you can bypass so much of the willpower required to stay on track. So, let's say, for example, when you set up your space to be in alignment with your goals, whether it's a tidy workspace, positive influences, or reminders of your vision, you retrain your brain to make better choices. And the more consistent cues you have around you, the easier it is to follow through. And so incorporating environmental changes reinforces these new habits by strengthening neural pathways that support those behaviors, making the process, it basically feels so much more natural. So let me give you an example. I loved working in my dining room because there is I used to sit facing the same direction at my dining room table and I used to look outside because there's this beautiful tree and I used to love looking at the tree and the birds through the window and sometimes the leaves would move and it would just put me at ease. Then I had a son and when I worked at home, it was okay when he was younger because he was just around in and out. But working in the dining room was no longer really conducive to my business because he started getting very distracting. And so over time, my husband and I, we decided to move me into this office. And so now I have an office with a door. I like leaving it open, but I can close it. And when I moved into this office, one of the things my husband was really adamant about is that I get the right furniture. And I didn't think it would make that much of a difference. However, we got brand new furniture for this office and I love my desk. It's got enough space for everything I need. I've got a filing cabinet over there. I've got a cabinet for my storage, for like my stationery supplies and all of the things that I don't want look in my line of vision. Right behind me, I've got shelving and storage for things like my microphone, for extra workbooks, for extra notebooks, for projects that I have right behind me. So it's all closed, it's all there, it's all neat and tidy. to my right, I have a bookshelf. So I have the right furniture for the environment I needed. And when I first started working here, I was like, wow, I felt really, really good because I was able to have the right focus. When I come in my office, I put on a certain hat because it's the right environment for what I'm looking to do. Okay. And so little things make a world of difference. Another environmental consideration is the people you spend time with, right? If you're spending time with people that constantly put you down, that constantly instill bad habits in you, you're going to start behaving like that. Jim Rohn says, you are the sum of the five people you spend the most time with. Well, who are you spending time with? And when you look at those people, maybe it's even the people next to those people that are influencing you as well. So you want to be very careful who you spend time with and make sure they're the right people that are in alignment with your goals, with your dreams, and your desires, because they will also be an environmental influence on you. I know that when I go for lunch, there's a friend of mine. We do CEO play dates, and when she comes to town, we go for lunch. And sometimes it looks like we're just having lunch and having these little conversations, but because we're so mentally in sync, we may not pull out our computers, we may not do active work typing, but the conversations, the discussions, the ideas, they stimulate so much other productive work that it's always such a joy to be around her. Why? Because we are like-minded and we support one another, we lift each other up versus having just conversations about the weather or gossip or other things that don't necessarily mean a lot. So the environment is absolutely huge because it is a support system for change. Next point is self-image. Okay. Self-image is how you see yourself. This is when you say the words I am, whatever follows, it is your identity essentially. Okay. So the brain works in such a way that your beliefs about yourself, they shape your actions. And when you view yourself as someone who struggles and who can't follow through, your brain is going to reinforce that identity. Versus if you start identifying as a person that's committed, your actions, and then you actually take a few of those actions, they're going to start aligning with that belief. And neuroplasticity, this idea that the brain can change itself and get reinforced, it tells us that when we consistently act in a way that aligns with the new identity, the new neural connections in our brain, they start to reinforce that identity over time. So it's not fake it till you make it. However, it is act as if, act like the person you wish to become. And you know what's going to happen? You will become that person. It might feel a little awkward in the beginning, but it is absolutely critical. And so this is why consistency can feel challenging because it takes time for your self-image to shift. However, once it does, it becomes so much easier. So we also in our vision expansion experience, I mentioned that we have a workshop where we create and elevate the vision of your ideal life, free workshop. But one of the things that we look at is what is the identity of all these amazing things you want? And we make sure to tie in the identity in each segment of your life that we look at because it's like one of the first things that's overlooked. And it's so easy to just dismiss it because that's not necessarily part of our regular way of thinking. We think, oh, what's your goal? What are you working toward? What's the thing? What's the action? But we forget about who we are. And when we look at who we are, that actually has so much more power because it's deeply rooted in the unconscious. Last but not least, integrity. Okay, when I want to talk about integrity because this is such a key factor in building consistency. And integrity isn't just about doing what you say, it's about aligning your actions with your values and commitments. It's great to do things for other people, it's great to be giving, but it's got to be aligned with you. And when your behavior is consistent with your inner beliefs, you start to experience congruence and your actions flow naturally. Okay, there's going to be an alignment. However, when there's this misalignment between what you say and what you do, your brain, it's going to experience cognitive dissonance, which leads to resistance and makes consistency harder to maintain because you're like, I am in it. I am doing this. I'm moving forward no matter what. Psh, no, you're not. You just sat on your butt and didn't do what you claimed to do. I'm going to make this commitment. and then you don't do it, and then your brain's going to tell you that you're a liar. That's not that's not an aligned action. So you've got to make sure to have the integrity that when you make promises with yourself and others, that you keep them, because that commitment is going to boost your confidence like never ever ever before. So let me just go over these once again, because I've talked a lot about these. So 5 things that we covered today that are going to help you maintain, right? To have consistency that actually lasts. First, starts with a compelling vision. You've got to have a good enough reason. Second, you've got to commit and go all in no matter what. Third, the environment must support your change. Fourth, self-image. This is the way you see yourself and how you show up in the world. And then fifth, your integrity. This is aligning your actions with your values and living in this aligned way. So by aligning your vision, your environment, your self image, your commitment, you create this feedback loop that actually reinforces your actions. And the more consistent you are, the more your brain just supports you in staying on track. So I want you to remember that consistency isn't a destination, it is a practice. Consistency is not a destination, it is a practice. And it starts with that clear commitment to yourself and to your goals. And if you make that automatic, the momentum will follow. So if you are interested in taking that very first step towards this consistency, towards your path of being consistent and taking consistent action that actually lasts, I want you to join me for my vision expansion experience happening soon. All you've got to do is type in vision in the chat, and my team or I will let you know how you can get registered for this free event. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.